Brittney, a few weeks ago, you fouled out of an Indiana Fever game. Cameras caught you saying something on the bench. It's hard to tell what you said. Can you tell us what you said?
I remember fouling out, being mad. I remember fouling out on, I believe it was Howard, driving to the basket. They said I put my hand in. But hey, never really had to look officiating, so.
But what did you say?
I really can't remember what I said, honestly.
If I showed you the video, would that help?
No, it wouldn't help.
It wouldn't help?
The result was pure gold, as the reigning champs were completely destroyed on their home court. Following a 14-point defeat, Sabrina Ionescu and Breanna Stewart took the microphones. And they did something that startled everyone rather than offering an explanation. There was no space for discussion on who controls this league after their candid evaluation of Caitlin Clark's performance. Did you find the Liberty Stars' graciousness during the loss surprising, or do you believe they were simply acting politically correct after receiving education?
For the ticky-tack fouls that we were talking about earlier today.
That since context is important when you're seeing greatness recognized by other greatness, let's establish the stage. The New York Liberty entered the game as the reigning champions, comfortably atop the standings, perhaps believing they could defeat a hot team that had been having trouble without their best player. Rather, they received a basketball tutorial so comprehensive that they were awarded a diploma. After missing 5 games due to injury, Caitlin Clark showed everyone why she is the most crucial player in professional basketball right away. She had 32 points, 7 assists, and enough highlight reel moments to fill a Netflix documentary. Here's the kicker, though. After being thoroughly outclassed by Clark and the Fever, Breanna and Sabrina Stewart didn't back down or make excuses. What transpired was that they delivered Clark the flowers she was due.
Brittney, a few weeks ago, you fouled out of an Indiana Fever game. Cameras caught you saying something on the bench. It's hard to tell what you said. Can you tell us what you said?
I remember fouling out, being mad. I remember fouling out on, I believe it was Howard, driving to the basket. They said I put my hand in. But hey, never really had to look officiating, so.
But what did you say?
I really can't remember what I said, honestly.
If I showed you the video, would that help?
No, it wouldn't help.
It wouldn't help?
When questioned about Clark's effectiveness following several game absences without hesitation, Sabrina gave credit where credit was due. She gave credit to Clark's shooting range and, more significantly, her ability to make a shot in spite of defensive pressure that goes beyond simply being courteous. That's spotting great talent when you see it, even if it just made you seem foolish on national TV. However, Sabrina did more than merely praise Clark's abilities. She also conveyed her sincere joy at having him return to the court in good health. Personally, I'm thrilled to see her back on the court in good health and spirits because, while it's obviously important for them, I'm also glad to see her return. It's not appropriate to say that about someone you view as merely another adversary. That shows respect for a player you know is unique. The admission made by Sabrina that they gave Clark too many easy ones was the most significant aspect of her remarks. Consider that, for a moment, one of the greatest shooters in WNBA history is saying this. Given that Clark's shooting skills are so exceptional that even somewhat open looks become automatic because Sabrina is knowledgeable about hitting threes from impossibly far distances, you pay attention when she says someone has exceptional range. Although Breanna Stewart took a different tack, her strategy was just as respectful. Stewart, one of the league's most successful players who has won MVP honors and championships, could have easily diverted attention away from Clark's performance by concentrating on officiating or team breakdowns. Instead, she accepted the fact that they were defeated by a superior team that specific evening.
In a viral clip, after she made a foul play, Griner appears to mouth something rather controversial. It might be, though we don't know, trash and possibly fucking white girl. Others have suggested it might be trash and fucking whack call. We don't know what she's mouthing, but she seems to, have a mouth on her and not exactly be in the gratitude space. Griner herself hasn't commented. Now, why is that? If you were being accused of making racist statements, I think you'd want to clear that up quickly. You'd race to the cameras and put out a statement on X to say, I said fucking whack call. I didn't say effing white girl. But she's not. She's apparently totally comfortable letting those allegations linger. Maybe she's worried that the people on the bench or the people right behind her had a recording going. You know how people do? They record the game. They want to show their friends that they were there. Maybe she's concerned that if she comes out and says it's one thing, there might be proof that it was something else. We don't know because she's not speaking to it, which is odd.
Throughout the game, Stewart's body language spoke for itself. Stewart was watching from a distance to protect her when Clark hit that logo 3. Stewart seemed to like the picture and grinned instead of displaying annoyance or rage. That's the response of someone who realizes they just saw something exceptional, even if it meant their team suffered a setback. Was simply too exposed. Accordingly, the defensive lapses Stewart mentioned were caused by Clark's gravitational pull on opposition defenses and weren't the product of haphazard errors. Teams must defend entirely differently when a single player can pull up from anywhere past half court and make it appear ordinary. The Liberty were forced to attempt protecting Clark without exposing everyone else, and they were utterly unsuccessful. The background of the rivalry between Clark and other WNBA players that media outlets have attempted to create makes these post-game remarks even more noteworthy. Rather than contributing to contrived drama or disparaging Clark's accomplishments, Ionescu and Stewart chose to be forthright and provide candid evaluations of what they saw. Even the most biased spectator cannot dispute the story that the game's numbers tell. The Fever's three-point shooting percent was ridiculous. Professional shooters often make their shots when defenses are so intent on stopping one player that they leave professional shooters wide open, with Clark leading the charge and her teammates profiting from the attention she garnered. Stewart's acknowledgement that they taxed their players in an attempt to match the Fever's explosive burst illustrates the psychological toll that Clark has on rival teams. Rushing shots and defensive lapses resulted from the Liberty feeling under pressure to match the Fever's scoring output. It goes beyond basketball. That is a single player controlling the game's whole flow. This story gained depth from the coach's point of view. Sandy Brondello admitted that the Fever played better and made their shots when it counted, and she didn't justify missing players or poor refereeing. When coaches at the championship level give praise to rival teams without reservation, you may be sure that the performance was genuine and outstanding. The Liberty's defensive stats from this game are especially terrible. They let up 102 points, 53 of which came in the first half, to a club that had been having offensive difficulties without Clark. It's more than just bad defense. The ability of one player to skew opposing game plans results in a total systemic breakdown. It was intriguing when Sabrina said that basketball was a game of runs, as it recognized that the Fever's supremacy wasn't due to a lucky break or a strong shooting night. She acknowledged that Indiana successfully carried out their game plan and remained intense the entire time. That is, recognizing consistent greatness as opposed to fleeting good fortune. This game's whole plot is revealed by the shooting discrepancy. While the Liberty only made 20% of their three-point attempts, the Fever made 17 three-pointers. It's not luck. That happens when a team's best player draws so much defensive attention that everyone else becomes more threatening, improving the team's appearance. Stewart's analysis of the team's resiliency was insightful since it showed how deeply this tragedy affected their mental health. Although the Liberty take pride in being championship-level players, they acknowledged that they found it difficult to keep up with Clark's speed and skill. The Liberty's transition game statistics were especially harsh when the reigning champs are discussing the need to examine ourselves after losing to a club that was written off without their star, which speaks something about Clark's influence. When opposed to their recent difficulties in that area, the Fever produced 19 quick break possibilities. Clark's ability to quicken the tempo and provide scoring opportunities before defenses can set up is directly responsible for that. Stewart acknowledged this by pointing out how challenging it got when they were unable to establish their half-court offense and get stops. Ionescu's acknowledgement of their offensive difficulties when they are unable to transition shows how much their whole game plan was thrown off while Clark was there. Defensive stops that resulted in attacking opportunities were the cornerstone of the Liberty's identity. However, the entire structure collapses when the other side scores goals at will. Clark didn't simply outperform them with her own efforts, she also destroyed their team's idea. The discrepancy in free throws during this game made matters worse for the Liberty. They were unable to match the Fever's attacking effectiveness even though they received more foul calls. Stewart's admission that they didn't reach the rim sufficiently illustrates how driving lanes became more challenging to locate and take advantage of due to Clark's presence on the perimeter. The conversation on coaching changes was especially fascinating since it showed how the Liberty tried several defensive strategies to slow down Clark, but were unsuccessful with each one. They tried zone coverage. They made an effort to completely bar her from the ball. Nothing was successful. When coaching staffs at the championship level run out of things to say about a particular player, that player has moved beyond the realm of basketball. Because they implied that this defeat made them reevaluate their position in the league hierarchy, the stewards' remarks regarding team identity and knowing who we are were telling. The Liberty went into this game as the league leaders and reigning champs, but they came away wondering if they were indeed the best team when everyone was well. These post-game emotions gain additional depth from the global viewpoint. Stewart and Ionescu have both played international basketball for their nations and are well-versed in elite basketball, because it comes from athletes who have faced the best in the world and are aware of brilliance when they see it. Their assessment of Clark's potential is given more weight. Sabrina's particular reference to Clark's ability to make her shot brought to light a distinction between proficient shooters and outstanding scorers. When the game is on the line, it's not only about making open shots, it's also about creating and making shots under pressure with defenders all over you. Throughout this game, Clark frequently displayed that skill. Stewart mentioned defensive communication problems, but these weren't sporadic mistakes. They resulted directly from Clark's movement and judgment, which made defenders make snap decisions that frequently turned out to be incorrect. Even championship-level teams begin to appear unimpressive when a single player can routinely put 5 defenders in difficult positions. The conversation over play speed demonstrated how Clark's return altered the game's overall rhythm. The Liberty are accustomed to setting the pace and directing play, but Clark's arrival compelled them to adopt an up-tempo approach that benefited Indiana's players and strategy. Stewart's recognition of this demonstrates his professional regard for Clark's influence on gameplay. This commendation was given for a shooting performance that involved more than just made shots. It also involved shot selection and quick decision-making. Even despite making very challenging attempts, Clark constantly made the perfect strokes at the proper times. Ionescu's acknowledgement of this demonstrates an awareness of the characteristics that distinguish truly exceptional players from merely competent ones. Clark's return instantly restored the Fever's attacking identity, making the team chemistry conversation pertinent. Players who had been having trouble finding rhythm without her now appeared at ease and self-assured. Stewart's judgment on execution recognized that this was not merely individual genius, but rather one player greatly improving everyone around them. The Liberty's attempt to put Clark under defensive pressure failed dramatically since it gave her teammates more opportunities. Stewart's acknowledgement that he let up too many open ones demonstrated how Clark's stature as a scorer gives her advantages that go much beyond her own. Fans' interest in this issue reflects greater dissatisfaction with the league's operations. They are fed up with convenient forgetfulness, double standards, and seeing their favorite players singled out while the league ignores them. Gurrier's loss of memory embodies all the issues with the institutional defense of favored narratives over accountability and the truth. The unwillingness of the media to follow this story demonstrates forcefully how sports journalism functions when difficult facts jeopardize favored narratives. The majority of publications would prefer to overlook glaring issues than run the risk of being branded as troublesome for raising legitimate concerns about possible misbehavior. In legal and psychiatric literature, the psychological profile of someone who recalls every detail except the incriminating one is well established. This condition is known as selective amnesia, and it is usually used by people who are aware of their guilt but wish to avoid consequences by claiming plausible deniability. Because Gurrier's response sets a precedent for how future scandals will be handled if players can escape accountability through convenient memory loss, the harm to the league's reputation goes beyond this one instance. If the league refuses to look into the possibility of racism from players while looking into phantom racism from supporters, why should anyone have faith in their dedication to equality? Fans have responded quickly and harshly because they can spot clear deceit when they see it. The irony is that Gurrier's amnesia defense has made this story bigger and more damaging than honest accountability would have been. Had she watched the video, clarified what was said, and either apologized or explained the misunderstanding, this would probably have been forgotten by now. Instead, her blatant avoidance tactics have created a story about institutional cover-ups and selective justice that will last much longer than the original incident. Social media is flooded with commentary about the absurdity of selective amnesia and the league's complicity in covering up potential misconduct. When the WNBA's favorite players are involved in scandal, Brittney Griner's convenient forgetfulness just revealed every flaw in the organization's operations. It is clearly indisputable that there are double standards, selective enforcement, and institutional shielding of some narratives over others. And how do you feel about this glaring memory loss? For more truth about sports hypocrisy, leave your comments below, hit the like button, and subscribe.